Hello everyone, here is a video I'll be showing you guys how to start the process, basically just doing a demo for Project 02. Okay, so here we are. Knowing the creative process is very important for any project, any creative project. So for us, for illustration, this is the creative process we have been using or we will be using. So you guys did this part already. You did those first two steps right here and here. Let me turn up the opacity on my brush right here and here. So this was Project 01. And then this is Project 02. So what do you have to turn in for Project 02? Let's see here. Home here. Two color rough thumbnails and your finish color illustration with clean line work. So we'll do the line art, and then we'll do some color roughs, which is basically what we just did in class this week, and then we'll do the final color. So we are going to start with the line art. So that is going to be based on your workup sketch. So have the chosen workup sketch that is working the best. I made a suggestion on the critiques or on the comments for Project 1. So I would suggest going in and making any changes that I suggested, adjusting the values, changing your drawing. You may need to completely redraw your workup sketch, but that's okay. Because it's a workup sketch, it shouldn't take too long to redraw it or make any changes to it that I suggested. So when you get your workup sketch working and exactly where you want it, you want to have this workup sketch all figured out before you go on to the line work. Okay, so feel free to send me your workup sketch if you want me to give you any feedback on it before you go into the line work. But this is the process we will do. So let's move on here. We can turn these off for now. This is a document that is 8.5 by 11 image size, 8.5 by 11 with 300 dpi. Make sure you are always working at that 300 pixels per inch, 300 resolution minimum. You can do 400 if you want. 8.5 by 11 is usually a good size for us to work at. So I'm just going to take this workup sketch right here and drop it in there. Drop it in there. There it goes. Okay. So this is a method you can use. You can still do your line art on paper if you want, but I suggest doing it digitally so you get used to this process. So what I'm going to do is I'm literally going to trace over this thumbnail sketch. I already figured out the composition, and I'm going to use that to trace over and make a new line drawing that's bigger for my final art. So I'm going to enlarge this so it fits the whole document. You know, I actually want my document a little bit bigger, so I'm just going to stretch it up. So there the height's about 12 and the width's about 9 now instead of that 8.5 by 11. I just wanted a little bit bigger to work on. So something about like that. And what I'm going to do now is turn down the opacity of this layer. I just don't need it to be this dark because I'm going to be tracing on top of it. So on Photoshop, it's right here to adjust the opacity of your layer. Most or all your drawing programs, whether you're using Procreate or something else, you should be able to adjust the opacity of your layer. Something about like that, and then I'm going to lock that because I no longer want to use that layer. Any layers you don't want to be messed up, make sure you lock them regularly so you're not drawing on the wrong layer. And I am going to make a new layer and call this one Rough Pencils. So I spent all this time already getting a good composition, figuring out kind of the pose of my character, figuring out what I want to be in this shot. So that is why I'm going to be tracing over it. I don't want to completely redraw it because that would just take me more time. So I did all this work already. So I'm going to start with a brush, a basic brush. This is just a hard round pressure size. I could also use one of these. I have some pencil brushes here. So these ones are available to download on Canvas. I can show you where those are if you're using Photoshop. Basic brushes.abr and comic brushes. These are two brush packs that I use a lot, so feel free to download these if you are using Photoshop. If you're using another program, it probably comes with some similar brushes. Alright, so I'm going to switch that brush. I'm going to turn down my opacity. So I'm going to pretend like I'm sketching this in pencil here. I'll turn down a little bit more. There we go. And so first you want to start with basic shapes. And then have that lead to your details. Basic shapes first, and then details. Okay? That should be a general good rule of thumb with any drawing you're doing. So I'm just going to lay this out here as basic shapes. So even for a person, we'll talk about some figure drawing next time. Just drawing your person before adding anything like arm or details, muscles, bones, kneecaps, clothes, fingers. Just think about your people being drawn like this with simple shapes for the person. Okay? Obviously we need another arm. But those are kind of the basic shapes of a person. And we'll do some more figure drawing next class, but this is a good start to think about it. So you could take a little screenshot of this generic person here if you want to use that. So I'm just going to start breaking this person down into simple shapes. So finding that center line of the back or the front of the person is really important. At the top of the leg. These are all just basic building blocks of a person. So it's nice because I don't want to or have to think about details right now. I'm just thinking about getting the pose down. What is the pose of this character? What are the basic shapes of this character? Circle for the shoulder, rectangle for the arm, rectangle for the forearm. And from time to time I will go like this and turn off that underlayer. There we go, that makes more sense. And I'm going to add more details to this rock. But again, basic shapes. I'm even going to just draw these trees as little triangles right now. I can add more to them later. And then I'm going to draw the outline of the composition. The frame of the composition. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Alright, so that's pretty much my basic shapes. Oh, we got another arm here. Forgot about that. We need that second arm. Grabbing onto the rock. And then kind of a shape for that hair. The hair will give a lot of motion to it. So this too, so now I can probably turn this one off. Okay? So that's kind of everything I'm working with. Do I have any of my references? So here's some of my studies. I'm trying to think. I'm not sure if I have any reference photos saved. So now is a good time to use those reference photos that you probably already have, or you can search for some other specific ones that will help you with, clothes, hair, muscles, details, accessories, things like that. So I'll grab a few more pictures if need be, but this will help me to get started. So I'm going to call this one I just did rough pencils. Rough pencils, and then I'll do one for clean pencils. I may have to do more than one pass on the pencils. This one clean pencils may be enough. So I'm going to now turn down the opacity of this one. And sometimes what I do is I even change the color of this, which can be helpful. Image adjustments, channel mixer. This is how you do it in Photoshop. There may be a different way to do it as well in other programs. So I go down here to blue, turn the blue up, turn the constant up. Then I go image adjustments, hue saturation, and this is just a simple way to adjust the hue. So I want this a little slightly lighter, greener blue. Okay, rough pencils gets locked. Clean pencils now. Use my brush and I'm going to turn up the opacity more. Alright, so I will use this reference to kind of look at some hands and muscles and some clothes. I will still look back at my workup sketch because I did some things I like here with the arm and the shoe. And I'll kind of use those together just to start making this into a finished drawing. So notice when I did these simple shapes, I was pretty zoomed out. I could see the entire composition. Basically, you don't want to get too involved with details too quickly. So now, since I had the composition figured out, I can zoom in a little bit more. So let's see here. I'm just going to start here at the side of the head. Here we got the shoulder flexing, showing a lot of muscles here. And we'll see the shoulder blade, the scapula. We have actual elbow here. So now this becomes someone's style. How much detail do you draw? How realistic do you make this? What are you focusing on? Are you focusing more on anatomy? Are you focusing more on gesture? But it should be a lot easier because I have the basic shapes figured out. So I can just fill in details and hope that and know that it should all be arranged in that composition nicely. So I can focus on like getting a cool shape for the hair here. Really making it look like it's blowing in the wind. So you want to draw the center line. So from the back you see that center line. Right here for the spine. As it continues around the rear end there. Okay, so now I'm just looking kind of at these folds here in the leg on the photo. And how will that translate to my version of the drawing? So let's see some folds here. The waist of the pants around like this. Wraps around. So it's good to show how clothes wrap around the body. So this waist of the pants wraps here. We'll have her top wrap around the rib cage and torso up there. So my drawing style, it's based in reality, but I like to simplify and stylize a lot of stuff. So, I'm not going to be drawing every single little like bump and muscle here in the knee. I'll put like a little indication of some muscles. So these pants will come down just below the knee here. Draw the seam in here. We'll get some folds in there as well. The pants kind of bunched up there. Alright, so I'm just going to kind of leave these as a simple shape on the foot now and then come back to that shoe design. Alright, so you guys can get the idea here. I mean, you don't need to watch me do this entire drawing. I'm going to kind of start to speed up here a little bit. So this process should take, an hour or two, depending on how complicated your drawing is. It's going to take time to get this drawing right. I've done this a lot before, so I can go a little bit faster. If you need to like just take a picture of yourself in like the exact pose, like this is not the exact pose here, but it gives me an idea of what the body might be doing when it's rock climbing. If like you can't figure out, oh, what is this leg doing? What is this arm doing? You can take a picture of yourself or have someone take a picture of you in this pose to make it easier for you to figure this stuff out. So I have the leg coming at us here. This is called foreshortening. When this leg gets really big. Got little loops on the back here. So those are the details that you want to include in this. A little loop on there. And the laces coming out. See how this wraps around the ankle there? It's very important. Well, how are we doing here? This is coming along. All right, we almost got the whole body in there. Okay, don't need that. So I can look at reference for how to draw this rock as well. And how to draw all these little textures. You know, you do want texture in your drawing. Texture gives a lot of information about what we're looking at. So this texture of this rock should feel different than the texture from her hair, should feel different than the texture of the trees. All right, trees. We got some trees in here. So again, if you don't know exactly how to draw those trees, pull up a Google search. Tall pine trees. Images. Here we go. That one looks pretty good. Drop that there. So, you guys get the idea. You will fill in all of your simple shapes with more detailed line drawings. And this, honestly, this is where most of the work is done, is here in the line drawing stage. It's really important to get this step figured out. It'll make the coloring easier. It'll make adding light and shadow easier if you have all of this figured out. So this is all about texture for a tree. This is a lost and found line where I'm kind of drawing this jerky, broken line to kind of draw these trees here. And we got some other mountains here. Here I can kind of exaggerate these mountain peaks. I want them to look very kind of angular and dangerous. I'm going to draw another row of mountains there in the distance. How else are we coming along? I wanted to add in the pack here. Hanging down, I think that holds chalk or something. So little details like that, you know, you want to be authentic to. If a rock climber sees this drawing, I want them to be like, oh, cool. There's the chalk pack. There's, you know, the right type of shoes that they're wearing, things like that. Okay, I'll have a little bit of texture on this mountain here. Maybe I want some clouds in here as well. Maybe And that could be a nice light value shape to put behind the person. Alright, so I'm going to stop the video here and then make another one for doing color roughs and then eventually your flat color. But this will give you an idea how to get those pencils. I'll probably add a few more details in here, possibly in the clothes a little bit, maybe some in the muscles, but it's getting really close. But this is basically how you will go ahead and get that clean line work. And you might do this step sort of sketchy, so like around this shoe it's a little bit sketchy. You can determine if you need to do another step of that to get it even cleaner. So you may need to do one more. Sometimes I do this step really quick and then just do one really clean line work where I turn this up all the way and kind of think of it like inking a comic book or putting ink on top of the line, where I go here. Let me turn this down, this opacity, and get a really nice smooth line here. So you can decide if you want to do that. Some people's, their first pass is clean enough, so you may just go slower on that first pass. And you may not need to do this step. But if your first pass is a little messy still and you go a little faster, then it would be better to do this kind of ink pass or a second pass on that line work. Okay? So that's it. The next video will show some color roughs and then how to approach the final color.